He's here with pro wrestling savior, the one, JT Dunn. And if you're on YouTube, you want wrestling information, you want to see some stuff, Dre 41 YouTube, the exclusive spot right here, the JT Dunn. Yeah.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Drake 41, aka Mr. 4K, aka Drake 41, and welcome to the Let's Talk podcast with me and my co-host Sean Styles.
What's up, everybody?
Oh, I forgot. I gotta let you talk. But we have a special guest. We have the creator, the developer of Ultra Violence Wrestling, Gackdaw, in the building again for the second interview with me. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
All right. So, first and foremost, how you been? How's it going?
Yeah, all good. I mean, you can probably tell by the boxes. Just moved house, so it's been a bit of a rush today. Just moving a lot of boxes out of this room because I'm just holed up in the spare bedroom right now. We've got no other space, so yeah. So that's definitely been something. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, really good. You guys?
Man, just doing good, man. Working, trying to, I'm staying too busy actually. I need to relax. That's what I need to do. For real. What about you, Sean?
I'm good, man. I actually just started a new job. I'm really loving it. Switched industries, and it was a good move. It's a good move. My quality of life has improved drastically, so I'm happy there.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, man. Especially with times like this, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But so Gackdaw, since our last interview around 7 or 8 months ago, you've been busy with updated videos on your YouTube channel, official roster updates, partnership with Orlando, and we'll get into that. Animation move updates, and just a bunch of stuff. But before all that, did you get to see Jon Moxley and Nick Gage face off?
No, I mean, I only saw what was posted on Twitter this morning. Because being where I am, I mean, that stuff happens at a pretty bad time for me. Although I think I was up at that time anyway, but on a different matter. But yeah, I'll catch up on it. But yeah, I've seen the clips. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I ask you that because not only because you're making this game, but do you also see like the incline in hardcore wrestling, like it's on the come up again?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly the deathmatch stuff. Like that's just been it's kind of ever since I started the project. I'm not claiming any responsibility for it, but what I mean is like, so when I started like back in 17 or whatever, it was just bubbling under the surface, I think. And then what I've seen as I've been working on it, I haven't tried to jump on any bandwagon or anything, but I've just noticed that since then it's been bubbling up and just coming more and more prevalent now, which is nice. It's good to see.
No, let's just start the rumor. You're the reason why hardcore wrestling.
No, let me shoot that right now.
We're gonna start that rumor.
No,
yeah, you like to say in the wrestling industry that there's like life cycles, and it has a tendency to repeat itself every 10 years or so. And I think right now, with how stale the mainstream products have been, I think that hardcore aspect is going to start to bring more people back into it. Just something different that hasn't been on TV for a long time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, first question is there a set number of moves you want to make in the base game? Like around what, like 200, 250, or am I going too high, or like?
No, yeah, I think you're actually getting probably about the correct target. So I think right now, Jack has made about 120 something or other, like 120 moves, something like that. And he's actually just finishing off like a polish pass on a lot of them as well, and they're looking really, really good. And I think, yeah, so probably about 200, 250 isn't unreasonable. I don't want to put work on him that he's not aware of. I think it's a good range to hit, and of course some of the other games obviously have a lot more. But I think, yeah, something like that's pretty good. And then we're trying to add more like dynamics to them at the like end points and the start points of the moves.
Okay.
But also, what you find is initially when I started all this, I was like, oh yeah, you can just animate like one of these moves, and then that's the hardest thing. But what actually stops you and sort of really grinds the time down is all like the filler animations, like the connecting point animations, and just like hit reactions and stuff like that. Like you can plan for all the like these grapple moves, and they're great. But in terms of workload, like it's the little gameplay feature animations that just really come out of nowhere as well. Like you can't predict them. So whilst there might be like 250 like main core moves, there's like an offense. There's probably like double, triple that, just to glue everything together and get it all working. So that's why like you say a number, and initially, like I know to some people that sound low, that'd be like, oh, it's not many moves. Well, actually, like it would be getting to a point where like that's unmanageable and like unachievable to actually roll all that in. To do much more than that. And I think, you know, like I mentioned, he's already done like 125, something like that. It's not including the ones that we mocapped a while ago as well. And I think even if we just like did like a content cut off on those right now and just got those all glued in, I think I'd be pretty happy with that range. But I don't want him to hear that because he's got a lot that he's got planned as well. So
yeah, I hear that. Oh, how did you guys link up? And we're talking about Jack Crimson Cause, correct?
Yeah. So I think it's about a year ago now, perhaps just under a year ago. I just put out a message because I was trying to animate and I just couldn't animate. Like I was cleaning up some mocap stuff, but that will only get you so far. And I just put out a message on Twitter like, you know, I'm looking for a proper, like an actual animator who can help out. And Jack put his name forward and sent me some links. And we took it from there, and he's been going since then. Okay, yeah,
because I seen the mocap video. He's really nice. He's nice with.
Yeah.
He's some of the stuff, like it's weird. Like he's shown off a couple, but the ones that it's like every time I like wake up and I check the moves that he's added, they're even better than the ones that he's done before, and they're just getting better and better. And like the last one that he showed me, it's so nice. So yeah, it's just. The more we can get gameplay footage out of those moves, basically, to do justice to those, would be great. But I'm sure we'll touch on some of that stuff later.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing that you posted on your Discord, and I want to talk about this, and I love saying it because it's the way I say it. Talk to me about the ghoul finishers, and could they be used as match enders, or used as big spots in the gameplay? And are these finishers related to the partnership with the Gorlando?
Not so much so. Gorlando is like a separate entity that'll come in a different sort of way. So the ghoul stuff, although there's no reason why they couldn't. So I've done the sort of finisher system for the game. And in doing that, there's actually, at the moment, there's two sort of main types of finisher. So there's your typical sort of wrestling game finisher, where it's kind of it's contextual. You potentially have to be facing the opponent in this particular way, and a lot more rules that I won't quite get into because there's weird stuff like some moves you don't want to do, high ups, all that type of weird rule set stuff, but it's flexible enough to take in those rules. So as a player, so you've got these two sort of buckets of finishers that you can use, and you can have, and it's hard coded, but I could expand it to anything. You can have 3 different finishers in each sort of bucket. So you can have like 3 slots of normal finishers, 3 these ghoul finishers. So the normal ones are what you'd expect. It's like an F5, rock bottom, or whatever, and they'll hit as normal. But as you're playing the game, whilst your finisher meter is filling up as normal, your ghoul meter will fill up in accordance to how many sort of weapon-related things that you've done in that match. So the weapon stuff feeds into that ghoul system and some of the other moves as well. And so as that fills up, you can then pull off this other category of finisher. And these are all moves that are really deathmatch oriented. So there's and a lot of the guys have their own sort of signature spots. Something obviously, the one that I've shown is G-Raver, and he's using his obviously I haven't got the modeling or anything like that. but he's using like the tattoo needles and then driving them into the head of the guy.
Yeah.
And that would be your ghoul finisher. That would be like your sick deathmatch spot that you're pulling off inside that match. And the hope is that it takes you kind of long enough to reach that point where the match is at a good point. Like you won't be pulling those off just at the start unless you're cheating. And so there's 3 sets there, and there's 3 of the normal finishers. And I think we were going to do another. Recently, I was thinking about doing another set of finishers, but I can't remember why. I probably won't to start with. So it's all contextual as well. So it all just works off the same system. It's been working really well. And what I find with the ghoul stuff was nice because it encouraged you to sort of manipulate players into different places. So you saw like in that clip, like it was all organic. Like I would punch him against the ropes. Depending on how he sold that, he would get strung up on the ropes, and then we got a manipulate button in the game, which is solely aimed at like moving your opponent, switching stances, and hopefully it feels contextual, and it will always do what you kind of want it to do. But that's up in the air. But so like once you're strung up on the ropes, if I go up to you and I hold that contextual manipulate move, he will run him round, throw him down on the ropes, and then you can pull off that move, or you could do other moves. Like it would be a setup as well. So, and because of the way the finisher systems are working, it reads off the poses of that victim. Almost that's what they're referred to internally as victims. So it will read off the pose of your victim at the time, and then that's what will tell you whether you can pull it off if you've got enough inside your meter.
Okay, now is this considered like a match ender, or is it?
No.
Okay. No,
I wouldn't do like match enders. I mean, they certainly don't look like you could do much more after that. They'll certainly have enough of a stat effect where the victim will be in pretty bad condition and probably put on the back foot, because they are like your signature moves, right? But I wouldn't automatically like close down a match with those. There's something that I try to avoid doing.
Now, am I right to think when I was watching this morning that these ghoul finishers are going to have a little bit more of a cinematic effect than like a normal?
Yeah, absolutely. It's twofold. One is I just think it looks cool and it hasn't been done so much before, but also it enables me to do stuff like spawn things off screen and really direct the camera. So as the camera's not looking at you, like your hand might be off screen and something spawns in your hand. The same way when they wrap up, I can then swap it to the proper gameplay stuff that needs to come in there. So yeah, so they definitely got that cinematic flair as well. Because if you see some of the deathmatch stuff as well, where they'll do that, there's always like this really, they pull in tight with the cameras. The dramatic
camera angles.
Yeah, so they really pull in tight for like that body horror sort of moment, and that's what I'm always going to try and be sort of drilling home with that stuff as well, where I can like really focus really tightly on just the player mostly the player receiving it, because like if you were to do that without the cinematic cameras, it would just look a bit strange. So really driving that cinematic.
Like it adds another level of immersion too. I mean, it takes you from gameplay and then kind of almost brings you into that setting where you get to, yes, you manually input the buttons, but now you're brought into something that you can feel a part of, like closer than your just regular hard cam view.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason why, whilst those are running, there wouldn't be any sort of mini games running or whatever. Haven't got that like implemented because I haven't found a need for it, but there's no reason why we couldn't set a section of that to loop, and then as you're like hammering the buttons, you're just hammering in these needles. So we can have that gameplay in as and when that's needed as well. But yeah, with the ghoul finishers, there's a couple more that I want to show off, and then there's a couple more on the roster that I haven't revealed yet, and they bring in their own sort of pretty cool looking ones. Pretty nasty ones.
One of my questions. So each wrestler that you have signed to this game, they already came in like, hey, I want to use this as my ghoul finisher. So it's not set to just based on situational, areas in the ring. It's based on who you pick.
Yeah, it's absolutely based on who you pick, because it really is like their calling cards. I would say we haven't So when I approach one of the guys and I'm just like, you know, would you like to be a part of this or whatever? Typically, if they say yes, then you know, I'll give them the rundown, and then I'll ask like, what moves do you want for the games? You know, just see what they want to do, and is there anything in particular that you may not have seen in like a game before that you do that you really want to see? And more often than not, I've got a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. So just try and work with those guys and see what they want to do, because you know, it's this whole different area that's not been done before, so I try and lean quite hard on it. And then the other thing that's nice, and I think this is why I was going to do a third slot of finishers. But this was going to be more for like historic finishers. So one of the things that it enables, and so it would already work like this, but I think we could go one step further with it. Is, I mean, if you think of some of the like Tournament of Death 2 spots, which is the whole basis of the game was originally that. Was it 2 or was it 1? Anyway, where Mondo took the Weed Whacker right at the end.
Yeah.
But that already technically works as a ghoul finisher. Like it would work, and let's say if you were playing as Wifey or whatever, that could be your ghoul finisher. Not saying anything, but you know, that would be that. But then there's maybe a layer of that where that could be, if you're playing it like an historic match, maybe that would just be those 3. I don't know. I don't quite know how that would fit in, but it would be nice to leverage the systems that are already there and enable people to do stuff that they've already seen in matches, which is something we're kind of going towards, but in a more organic way. Not like you know, I've played some of the 2K storylines and it's like, you've got to do this in this match and pull this off, sort of thing. Thinking about like 2K16, it would be more like, oh, well, you just happen to be in this venue where that happened, maybe.
Okay.
And maybe
you got the option.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, with this being said, and I'm pretty sure we already know the answer to this game's probably going to be M for mature, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably be a miracle if I can get it on consoles. Like everybody asks about consoles, and there's a ton of reasons why I never give a straightforward answer. But also, I mean, if I've got to run it past some people, like you never know. Some publishers, it might be a little bit too rich. Because I don't know, like the counter to that is like, obviously you get some really nasty stuff happening in games now, like more Mortal Kombat and that, but there's always this level of it's not based in reality. I don't know, there's a certain
that's the thing. You're taking almost these not mythical, but definitely fantasy based characters and doing violence in almost like another realm, and you're not basing upon reality, so it may not strike people as delicately as if you were going to do it in an environment that was regularly seen. Yeah,
well, that's it as well. And you've got the whole don't try this at home sort of feel behind it, and the sort of, I could see it being perhaps a bit of an issue. But we'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'm not taking it out. Like, I'm not doing the Manhunt 2 or anything like that, and just censoring it and run filters over the top of everything like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of environments that people have seen, like, have you guys thought about incorporating any specific environmental interactions in different venues that you'd be, having your players be able to wrestle or fight in, that may almost be like a finisher, or as in the 2K games would call it, like an oh my god moment, where it would be specific to that, venue?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit more open-ended than that. I think it's kind of a mashup between that and almost like SmackDown 2 and the older games, where so the way it's set up right now is you would whip your opponent, just because that's how it used to be done, right, in those really old games. You would whip your opponent into like these portals, and then you teleport to a spot that has been used before. So I think one of the most obvious ones I've got is the open air car park from one of the Tournament of Death, well, 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so the spots, like the environmental interactions there, if there's, and I need to find a way how I'm going to split it, but you're going to have, if you go one way, you'll go to the rooftop. And if you go another way, you'll go on top of the truck, the removals truck. But what you do there is down to you. I'm not going to always place the tables exactly there, and I'm not always going to set up the spot for you. It's kind of like, it's less work for me to do by not setting them up, but also enabling players to define their own spots there. Like, yeah, exactly. So before a match, you'll be able to place the weapons where you want them. And so it would be the idea that, you know, if you wanted to recreate those spots, and absolutely I'll probably even chip with some of that data, but if you wanted to recreate those, you would just place the tables in the same place, and then you'd be able to go to the location, you'd be able to pull off the move, and it would happen organically. It wouldn't be something that you're up there, you have to press the finisher button and it comes into like a cutscene. It wouldn't do like a pre-count cutscene. It would just be, here's this move that works organically there. Here's all the weapons behind, below it. That's just going to work how you'd expect. If you come off the rooftop, that's down to you, sort of thing. And so, yeah, so there's a few there, and that method sort of extends to stuff like balconies, just all that stuff. It tends to lend itself better to the high spots, obviously. It tends to go that way.
So, what is Orlando bringing to Ultraviolence?
So that was a bit of a brainwave that I had, and I realised that actually it was a perfect collaboration. So I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff those guys have been creating. I should have sent you some pictures actually before this. They've got one.
We could add it in post.
Yeah, they've got one called the Four Loco, which I'm not even going to attempt to tell you the layers off by heart. I think it was like there's a door, a layer of light tubes, and then a plane of glass on top, and then that's all in this like DIY contraption that they've made. And then, you know, I can't remember who went through it, but apparently it went a bit gnarly. And then there's like, they made, you'll have to forgive me, I haven't played Final Fantasy, but is it Cloud, and he's got like a Buster sword, the really big sword? And they made one of those out of light tubes, like full scale. It's just all these really mad things, and I was like, you know, that their creativity, I could never think of some of that stuff. So having their designs like in game, it matches just what works well in the game is exactly what they do, and just marrying those two up, it's like, you know, they already look like game weapons, but they're real. It's mad. Some of the stuff they were telling me that they're going to do as well is just, I don't know, I think it'll end up looking really gamey, but it's something that they're actually going to do. So what they're going to do, or what we're planning to do, is we'll bring in at least 10, 15 of their existing spots that they've done before, and they've made up all these weapons and contraptions, and they'll be sort of branded in game as like, you know, this was actually by a proper creator, not just me or whoever. How that looks, I don't know, but you'll be able to tell in the menus that it's been made by them, and then you bring those into your matches or your deathmatch setup, and you'll just be able to use those. And then we're hoping as well to get them to do like 5-10 new designs just for the game, and just really let them loose and just see, you know, when they're not encumbered by like physical limits, just seeing what they create. It'll probably be some weird light tube ladder or something like that. I don't know.
With these death matches and stuff, from what I'm gathering from what you've said, are you going to be able to customize the weapons or items that you want to have in your match and set that up beforehand, so when the matches start that's already set up? Or while you're playing the matches, are you going to do this with your player?
Yes is the answer to that. It's like both, and there's more layers on top of that. So there's a lot that's going into the create mode for that. So at the sort of middle level, it's basically, if you imagine like Tony Hawk's Create a Skate Park, it's that, but create a deathmatch. So you'll have a palette of all items and stuff you can search and bring in. I want a table here, this here, this here. You'll be able to stack that around your venue. You know, you might want a scaffold, you might want to set things below it, all that stuff. You'd be able to remove the ropes, change the ropes, put things on the ropes, all that type of stuff, right? And then you save that as a preset when you're happy with it. And then the idea would be that eventually people could share those as well. Like you say, oh, you know, here's my deathmatch preset, bring it in, and you play it. So that's kind of the placement of it, but it's not limited to that. And then in game, when you're actually fighting the match, there's kind of this feature that I haven't quite got a name for it right now, but it'll get there, where you can, before a match, sort of call out like 3 spots. Again, 3 is just a magic number I've just pulled out from anywhere. You'll be able to like assign 3 spots. The 2 of you will be able to decide, here's the 3 we're going to use. Here's the 3 we're going to call out. We're going to try and pull these off in the match somehow. Everybody gets a bonus if they actually pull them off, almost like a promoter bonus or whatever. And during that match, according to some rules that I haven't made up yet, but I've got a decent idea of them, if you get to the point where you can, you'll be able to load those in and place them where either you predefined where it's going to be, or maybe you place them in game, but that might slow it down, so it might just be a predefined spot. And then, yeah, the signal is then fired that when you've actually smashed that, whatever you need to do, that's when you get the spot caller bonus. So there'll only be 3 of those accessible throughout the match, shared between both players. So you'll have like a bar at the top that's just got these 3 slots, and as they go through, you know, you might miss one and then it's just gone. And then, you know, so you've got those that you can call out. But then there's also the organic sort of stuff where you can just, you know, like we've all seen before, where you can just pick up weapons, place them down, you know. And we're working right now actually with Brian to get in the weapon system where like you can like attach weapons to like sockets in the world, and like, so like you could wedge light tubes in the turnbuckles, or like prop things up against, you know, like a proper leaning table, all that type of stuff. Prop up boards across like barriers and all that stuff. So you'll be able to set them up. But what I've always found in like pretty much all the games that I've played before, it's my favourite part was always setting these things up. But they were always so difficult to do, and it was always like the physics was never quite there, and I'm not naive enough to believe that I can do the physics any better. So I'm going to give you.
I've seen the physics, man. I think they're pretty great.
I think yeah, they look alright now, but I think when you're in game and when you've got the AI running around, and you know you're trying to place things on top of each other, and then there's like this whole question of, well, how would you stack like a table pyramid in game? You know, you can stack one table on top of another. I can just about believe that, but then in the game, how would you stack up 3 tables high and then put light tubes on top of that? And then it becomes a case of, oh, well, is that going to be the limiting factor? And so I want to give people a way to like say, all right, you know, the really fiddly stuff, maybe you make that offline and then you bring that into the match with you. It's almost like just calling to the backstage, right, and say, bring this in, sort of thing, except for without any of the animations and people actually bringing in your weaponry.
That works. And we do know that this game is a love letter to deathmatch wrestling. And we've seen some screenshots showing possible match types that we've seen from CZW. Can you confirm any particular match types that we'll see in the game, and you know, anything we can look forward to?
It's kind of a difficult question, because like in my head, because I've seen it all, it's just like anything. I can say like cage matches. I can't say which particular cage matches, obviously. I think the ones that we're all thinking of, I would very much hope to have all the physical entities there that you could create those. I mean, barbed wire ropes is an obvious one, but then there's like you know, light tube ropes, stuff like that. Flaming ropes is another one. Exploding. There's a lot of ropes. Exploding ropes, but then you know you can get into the. I'm just got to pop up here. Okay. But then yeah, you can get into the sort of different things. Like they often have like 4 corners of pain matches with particular things in each corner, and you can absolutely set those up. So yeah, it's weird to say any particular ones to get people excited, and I know I should be able to, just because in my mind and in my design, I know exactly that you're going to be able to do anything. Any of those that you actually want, or at least if it's successful, you know, you'll be able to do as many of those as you want, and I'll just give you the building blocks, and you can either stitch them together, or I'll make obviously a handful of, well, more than a handful, but I'll make some. But any that I'm missing, you should be able to create what you want, and that way as well. The whole reason behind that was just like, you know, I've been watching these test matches for so long, And every other month or so, somebody will come up with something that you've never thought of. And it's just like, oh, how am I going to do that? So I had to design something where it'd be like, you can't ship with all of it because somebody's going to do something that you've got no. You could never imagine, like ICW, they did that weird scaffold thing, but it was made out of barricades.
Yeah, that was sketchy.
Yeah, it was magical. And yeah, so stuff like that, it's just like, I would never have, I could never have designed that. So again, you have to enable people like, all right, well, if you want that, there's got to be a way to do it. And so it's kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, I know it's quite nebulous, but it really is just a case of, I just want people to pick and choose and do stuff like that. And then sometimes people like ask, we have like first blood matches or something. No.
That'd be too quick.
Yeah, be like over in like 50 seconds or something. Same thing with some of the other matches. It's just like, they don't quite fit. I know the only matches that I won't have will be anything that's like owned by, obviously the Fed or whatever. Like any of the elimination chambers, the Punjabi prison, there's no chance in hell I'm even going to touch that. So,
I would
not
think
because I
too,
don't think it's cool, but
when you're designing like a preset match type, that could be limiting to the player. So having that kind of open platform where you give us the tools and the building blocks to create our own experience leaves, I would think, more opportunity for us to innovate as the player. Yeah, so rather than having that preset where if you need to program something in a certain way, that might not allow you to do something else.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And as well, like I've already touched on it with Orlando, but all the players as well, there's going to be like people coming up with stuff that I'd never imagined. And, my imagination there is quite limited. And so I'd rather leave it to people who are much more, just see what people could do, because I'm sure there's going to be some wild stuff. So quite looking forward to seeing that actually come to fruition. I think it should work. I think it should work pretty well.
Dre and I touched on. Sorry, Dre.
No, go ahead. You good.
So Dre and I touched on a subject the last podcast we had when we were talking about the 4 big games, and that was sound capture. We both agreed that we feel like this type of game, with the high impact and the just the physicality of the moves. What are you guys doing to do sound capture? Are you actually, going out and capturing sound from actual weapons? Are you creating them yourselves? How's that work?
No idea at the moment. Sound is one aspect of game development that I'm not very up to speed with. I never have been. I have got a guy who I'm hoping to hit up and help me out with the sound, which is really exciting because he's a proper sound guy. Like he knows what he's doing rather than me. So yeah, hopefully when it comes to that, because I listened to the podcast and I was like, yeah, absolutely, the sound is going to be a key thing, and it always is. I mean, I always forget. I always leave it until the last time, which is why I'd rather have somebody much better and much more knowledgeable than me handle it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to make sure that all those light tube pops and that. I mean, that's the key thing, isn't it? The light tube pops, just making sure all those explosive, punchy sounds really add that impact. Yeah. And then hopefully fall in from there. Because
that's on your radar.
Oh, 100%, because I can add effects all I want as well, like when you smash glass and stuff. But the moment you add good sound effects of glass actually falling and hitting the ground, and it adds you can get away with murder visually. You don't have to do as much visually, because I've been an effects artist for some time now. And what I've always noticed is sometimes the sound will add things and you'll swear that you see them, but you don't actually see them. It's just the sound is driving that in, and actually you have to do less on the visuals once the sound's in.
It's like an audio mirage.
Exactly. Yeah. And the miracles that those guys do, it can't be left. understay it. It's really good. So yeah, hopefully get sound really doing justice to it.
Okay. And we also seen announcements on the game roster with the likes of Ruckus, Jonathan Murdoch, G Raver promoted on the roster on Wave 1. How many waves can we see, and is there a set roster at this time?
So there's not a set roster at this time. Waves, I mean, I still haven't completed Wave 1 yet. Waves are about 5 to 6 people in a go. I grossly sort of underestimated how much I'd have to do beforehand to announce everything all at once. And I've got a couple of guys, and then I was about to do it this week, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to leave. You know, it's a special weekend for everybody. I'm going to leave that and let everybody like build on that, and then I'll jump back in.
Okay. All right.
And do a couple.
So with that being said, with any of the roster members or actual wrestlers, now question, is there going to be there's going to be clearly actual wrestlers in the game?
Yeah.
Are you also going to add original wrestlers to the game as well, just to fill it out, or are you just trying to fill it out with completely real wrestlers?
I don't know. I feel like fill it out with real characters, or at least have some very, very clear delineation in game of the real ones and the created ones. I just think trying to do a mixture, I don't know the right word. I almost feel like
it pulls you out of the immersion sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Quality. Yeah.
That's the correct. Yeah, that's exactly the right thing. Is that unless they're exactly the same bar of quality that's being met, I think it's just like, well, who would want to play with the creative wrestlers when when the real guys are actually there as well? And yeah, I don't know. I feel like having a mixture almost sort of cheapens having the real guys in there as well. Like, I would rather it stood on its own with those guys. And yeah, I think that's how I'm feeling. It's just the real guys. And in terms of waves, I mean, so 1 is done but not announced. Like Wave 1, like I've got everybody that I'd want for that, and that's done. Wave 2, I've got a couple of guys sorted for that, and I'll need to complete on that. And then I'm thinking maybe 3 before a first release, and then 3 would be it for a first release. Like, just in terms of just like quantity, obviously the animation workload on Jack, like the more guys you add, the more he has to do.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of character creation and just actually managing all those assets, it does take quite a lot of time. So I would hope for 3 for a first release, and then we just see sort of what happens there. Because it is also a limited factor. Like I'm not even going to try and have like 100 or 200 guys or whatever. Just realistically, I know it's just not doable with such a small team. It's just I want the guys that I just want really good guys, which I'm confident in. It's not to knock anybody that's obviously not in it. It's just I can only draw from so much resources I have. So it becomes the case of all right.
Okay. And, with the announcement of these characters in the game, are we going to get their entrances as well? And if so, how are we going to work around the music?
Yeah, I don't know. You will have entrances, although even that's a little bit tricky. Now, the only reason I raise that is because entrances normally they work fine if you've got like a ramp, and like that ramp is pretty much straight in every venue. Excuse me. Right. But with the varied venues that I am planning, I don't really know.
Maybe like No Mercy kind of entrance, like were you at the stage and walking down a little bit? And
yeah, maybe. Certainly design it in such a way that it hides the floors anyway. Just again, just because you never know what's going to be there, and especially if people place weapons in places, it's going to be I'll have to work around that. But so there will be entrances, and then music. Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one because obviously on the indies, sometimes like music licensing isn't that much of a concern. So there's the obvious idea of having a Spotify integration, which I've already got like something up and running for that, and it worked decent. It worked all right. I know, again, from speaking from some sound guys, a lot of people in the actual industry like will not touch the Spotify integration, just from a legal standpoint. Like, I think it's a problem for bigger teams because games have shipped with Spotify. I mean, there's Dangerous Driving on the PS4 where they actually shipped it and it uses Spotify. That being said, I don't know what the Spotify integration is like on PS5 or the next Xbox. I've no experience with that, or even Switch. Like, for example, like, does it then become a limiting factor where you can't do it on platforms that don't have, you're beholden basically to that one supplier of music. So it might end up being generic stuff. Okay. But I think on PC, you can just hook into your Spotify and I can use that. That's not a problem. And even like, I don't know if you guys remember, this guy called Jam Stubbs. He made I've got to shout him out. It's from back when we were hacking No Mercy. He created like an MP3 tool for Project 64, I think it was, where...
Oh, okay. I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know how he hooked it in, and I don't know what he did, but when it detected something, like, it would run an MP3. I don't know how he did it.
But it would be the music that's on your PC, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so for PC is easy because it's a much more open system. But for like consoles, I have no idea like what the stakeholders like and don't like you doing. So,
will there be fighting in the crowds? That dumb question, but I feel like it's going to be a yes, but I have to ask.
I feel like it's going to be a yes. I feel like if Just Bring It could get away with like the cardboard cutout crowd, I think I can do something that's at least a step up above that. Like, I don't know. I hope so. Yeah, and I've seen some of the other stuff, and they normally, what do? They just sort of like scoop out a section of the crowd, don't they? And then you sort of fight with that with a camera. I think that's certainly doable.
Okay.
I think obviously in an ideal world, it would be like, the crowd would be patting you on the back and throwing in weapons as you're there. But the way I've set them up, it's like if you want 200 to 300 people on screen, you're not going to get that detail. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's a cool feature to have because in a lot of these death matches, I mean, you see these guys throw right into the crowd,
yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely helps with immersion. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be definitely really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've seen this on your Discord. Talk to me a little bit about the stat effect system. What does that do for the gameplay?
That one. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. It's just gone in. There's no visuals, just because I've only just done the system. So it's more of an arcade-based, like the ground roots of that system are based from like arcade games, from something I've been working on before. But this one, it kind of lends itself to the game really well. So if we take the tattoo needles in the head, for example, so what we saw was they get driven into your head in the cinematic, and then what I alluded to earlier was that once that cinematic cuts, it swaps to something else, and that's a stat effect basically. So on that cut, there'll be an application of a game stat effect, and what these are like tiny little bits of logic that apply to a player. And so what will happen is on that cut, I will apply this head needles stat effect. And that has a visual payload and a gameplay payload. And so what will happen is the visuals will say, all right, attach tattoo needles to this place on his head and add whatever blood that's running down there and apply that, and that will update and do everything. But the gameplay payload on that stat effect will say, whilst you're active, which might be for 5 seconds, it might be permanent from now on. Whilst you're active, drain the guy's health stat just a little bit every frame, so it'll start ticking down whilst you've got that, and then it'll say for that guy's head hitbox, any damage you take to that multiplied by 2 or multiplied by 3. And so what's nice about those is that they behave in like this almost sort of scoped manner, so they will, when they clean themselves up, all that's gone, and it just sort of it enables you to do lots of things. So when it would clean up those, for example, I just play a simple animation of the needles falling to the ground, and then all of a sudden your head hitbox goes back to kind of normal, but you've had your health drained, you've had all that. But the way that system works, it really enables just a lot of different gameplay features really fast. So there's one that's always been on my mind, which is like Type A deathmatch, which is where the guys wear like gloves on their hands, and then they've got like shards of glass on those gloves. And so the way the whole game's been designed, it's been designed with those type of things in mind as well. So even with like the costume stuff, if you've got that stat buff enabled, it will remove anything that's assigned to your hands, so you won't get clipping and overlays. So it'll remove your attire on the hands, it'll put the gloves on your hands instead, and then what that stat buff will say, this one in particular is permanent, because if you wanted this as part of your match rules, it would be on all the time. Yep. So you would then say, okay, that hitbox maybe does double damage on both your fists, and then the damage that hitbox provides, so the damage that hitbox provides now turns into glass. So every time somebody gets hit by that, they think getting hit by glass. And then it does double damage. They react like they've been hit by glass. It'll do blood damage, so they'll start tearing up things. And then it's kind of really flexible in that system. And then the other stuff, like you can just do most things that you would want to do with it. The other one is like a flaming elbow. All I've got to say is, like, when I apply that stat buff, this gets set alight with like an animation. Your elbow gets set alight. It lasts for however long that light fuel lasts, 2.5 seconds, no, probably longer than that. And then whilst that's active, any elbow moves will do fire damage. You just start building things up like that. And then I think the very last one that it can do, like as an example, would be like barefoot matches as well. And this might be reaching just a little bit too far out of scope, but you could easily create a stat buff that would say, whilst this is active, remove anything that's on the player's feet. So you'd remove any like wrestler's footwear, any like shoes, anything like that. And then your feet just take damage. Your foot hitboxes, for example, take extra damage. They're a bit weaker when you apply kicks and stuff like that. But then also when you walk over particular types of damage, you pick that up. And this is in combination with the other system. So whenever you're walking over a particular type of damage, if, for example, your foot hitbox has this modifier tag enabled on it through the stat effect, then it'll be like, well, that's going to be doing damage to you, and you play a cell reaction like that. So all those type of things can play concurrently as well. There's no reason why you can have a barefoot Type A deathmatch, or there's no reason why you couldn't wrap particular parts of your body in barbed wire and do barbed wire damage through that. So the way it works is it just really stacks really nicely, which is a nice thing, and you start to get like this almost sort of procedural sort of fun and gameplay out of things that hasn't been designed, but it just sort of works, and the system's just doing what it should do. And then you can just build your own sort of gameplay out, and it just starts to be a bit more fun.
And I'm happy that you were talking about that, because we did see some bloodshed in your preview video as well for the game. Will that take place just with wrestling, or will it only take effect when you're using weapons? Like, for instance, when you turn blood on like the old game, like WWF Attitude, you can just do wrestling moves and they'll start bleeding. So is it going to be like that, or will we have to use weapons to bust open our opponents? Because like even in current wrestling games, you do a super kick to their jaw, their forehead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of just having straight up wrestling just like provide blood. I don't know. I probably wouldn't, just pulling off my reference of death matches where there's very little time where that happens. It's almost always they're bust open through weapon spots or weapons being used, and so it becomes more of a natural sort of thing. Like if you're playing a deathmatch game, you're going to be using weapons, so the time to basically it's all about getting that time to blood like right down, and your time to blood is probably already going to be pretty low if you've got like tubes scattered around, which you probably will have in like every match. But that said, I mean, there's things like what I wanted to do is like almost like either exposed ring mat, like just having it down to the wood, or just having like almost like a concrete ring mat or something, and then it would be the case that the sort of damage system would pick up that if you took a DDT to that, might not be quite right, but you would probably bust open in accordance to that, because it would just feel right. So I think there's opportunities for that to happen, but again, you've got the sort of deathmatch stuff driving that more than just a normal ring, right? So
okay. And a big question, because this is, you know, on my YouTube channel, creation suite, what can we create in this game?
I don't know, dude. Like we've gone through the creator match. There'd also be creator weapon, which is where you'd be able to like almost sort of glue things together and have that work. I'll give you templates so I don't have to create infinite amounts of animation.
Okay.
But you'd be able to glue things onto things and just like start to stack those up and have them look how you'd want and have them act how you'd want. There's also like, and this is still part of the creative match sort of suite in its own right, there'd be like create a ring where you'd be able to define how that ring appears, and all down to like the materials that it's made out of, but only if it's like gameplay facing. There wouldn't be creator venue or anything like that. Creator wrestler is something that I want to say, well, I will say yes to, obviously. And we'll go a bit deeper on that in a minute, actually. My only concern with that is that feature alone will probably take about a year to make if it's done really good. Just because you've got to really throw like a good amount of quality content at it, you know, because people aren't going to make things out of rubbish. They need like good quality bits that they can use. Being able to apply like all different visuals to those bits, like because you guys upload textures and stuff like that and all that, right? And that don't come cheap on time. Like all that stuff's got to be coded. So as much as I want to say yes on that, probably but then, you know, I catch myself saying not for the first release. But then here's the thing, like I think having one is more beneficial to a first release than not having one, potentially, because your game might be like, and let's be brutally honest, it might be a 5 out of 10. But if your creation suite is really solid, like for Creator Wrestler, I think that draws people in a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And you know, if they've kind of invested themselves and bought into like the world and just the things that they can do, even if it's a bit naff. I hope it's not. I'm just being brutally honest. Like, even if your game's not the strongest, having, I think, Creator Wrestler, I think, really brings people in, because I know all the things like people do, like you know, they run their own matches and then do like reels of those and stuff, and you know, I think you could hide gameplay for it. But so, you know, I mean, I fully appreciate like how important it is, but then in the back and like I've got two sort of things pulling on my mind. It's very important and it draws people in, but at the same time it's like, do you guys want to wait another year just for that? It's difficult.
I put it like for me as like a fan, and to be completely honest, like your game is one of the reasons why I bought like a custom PC. Like I want to make sure that I'm not even playing. I'll send you the pictures of what I bought. But I want to make sure I play these wrestling games, because for one, I'm tired of playing the same one We've been playing the same wrestling game for 3 years. Let's just put it out there. I'm about done with it, and I'm so happy that you know you took the steps to really get this game going. I really do appreciate that. So another question I have for you, as far as modes go, I know you were speaking about, you know, like the, you know, historic moment and, you know, hardcore wrestling matches. Is there going to be a type of career mode or season mode that goes with this? Like, you know, you start off, you know, regular matches, get into the hardcore, then, you know, the tournament of death, things like that?
Yeah, see, I listened to your podcast on that, and you brought some really good points. Initially, I've always been about being the leanest possible release, to sort of get people creating their own death matches and playing them, and then seeing what that side is about, and it touches back on like what I was saying with Creator Wrestler. But then like hearing like how much stock like you guys were putting in like story mode, and I've seen it as well on Twitter and like Discord, how often it is requested of lots of different projects, not just mine. It is a common thing. I'm coming more around to the idea of having a story mode. And like you guys were saying, like, it wouldn't need to be voice acted or nothing. You just have the guys stood there with like dialogue boxes. Yeah. So I'm kind of coming around to that idea. I would still want to do it different to how other people have done it. I wouldn't want a traditional story mode. So there's that side of it. And then I don't know. It's strange. Like, I want to do it, but I want to make sure the story's worth telling as well. Like, I'm not a good storyteller, so I need to find somebody who does a good one, a better one than me. I think there's good scope for it, but I would like to believe that it's something that could slot in later if there was an audience for it. I think, unlike Create a Wrestler, I think it's something that potentially can come later and be like a hyped feature. But on the back of that, though, I would always plan to ship with like a tournament mode. So like, build your own tournament of whatever length. Set each of your deathmatch stipulations, because that's the nice thing about all these deathmatch tournaments, is each match is different, and so you've got all these different things happening in each match. So it's really varied. So you would have that. So the first match might be, I don't know, going in strong like no rope barbed wire. Next one will be scaffold. Next one will be, I don't know, flaming, whatever. And so build your own tournaments like that, I think would be really fun. And then one of the things that I've been working with a couple of promotions with, and there's nothing set in stone yet, but the idea would be to have, touching back on it again, like historic tournaments. So it would be a case of I'd build all the matches and the venues from those tournaments that have happened previous, and you'd be able to play back through those in game, which I think slots in really nicely. It uses all the systems that were already planned, and it just enables people to play things that they've probably seen before, and replay those and play those as like historic events. There's a couple I have in mind that would be really nice, but again, nothing's written in concrete yet. But I think that would be the ultimate plan, would be to have like almost like this, not a video library, but like a tape library or something of these events that you could just sit down and authorize, and you could boot them up and you could play these tournaments that happened before.
Okay, now with the idea of having these tournaments in the game, and because you said nothing is set in stone just yet, is there a possibility, based on whatever happens in the future, to have actual championships from these different companies, or do you have a backup plan to have your own original championship or trophy?
I mean, I would have my own original trophies anyway, and championships. Probably just trophies per tournament. Let's say I make 6 tournaments, and then probably like fictional promotions, and I've designed like trophies for those anyway. I'm certainly very, very open to the idea of having actual existing promotions and trophies and championships in the game. It's whether those guys want to do that or not. That's down to them. I would love it, obviously, personally. But then I know you guys have Create a Belt and all that as well. There's no reason why.
Needed. It's not necessary. Like,
no, but there's like no reason. I mean, ironically, that's much easier to code and design than Create a Wrestler. So you could have one of those, and then again, it's like a cheeky nudge, wink, wink. Like, if you guys accidentally upload this design that just so happens to be this promotion's belt, I can't stop you.
It's not on you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Blame the community.
Yeah. But yeah.
So, okay, now here's maybe a little bit of a taboo question, especially in regards to like a hardcore wrestling game. Will there be women in the game? And if so, will we have intergender matches?
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, I know a lot of people might see it as taboo, but to me, it's like, I don't know. I almost don't see it as an issue. I know, like in death matches, there's intergender matches all the time, and it just doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I don't see it as a thing. Perhaps I'm a little bit naive on, I don't know, some people. I don't know the darker corners of the internet, like. But like to me, I mean, I don't see why not.
I think it's mainly just the maybe one or two big companies that really don't want to touch it, because I see it all the time on the indies.
Yeah.
I see it all the time in Japan. I think it's a pretty common practice to have intergender matches. And even I myself, when I was on the indies, I had a few of them, and I think it's only taboo with the companies that are kind of publicly traded. They have buys and stuff like that, and they have to keep appearances up. But I think like you said, I think it'd be cool to have.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have, and it's actually less work to just not put in a filter. It's just like do what you guys want to do. And that's kind of the whole driving force as well, isn't it? It's just I just want the freedom to allow people to do what they want to do. And I always sort of thought it was a bit weird that you can't, if you select one person, you can't do this, and if you select another person in the game, you can't do that. It always felt a bit strange to me. So.
Okay, so we're gonna go to a little short rapid round, and you let me know, like, the first thing that pops up into your mind when you hear these questions. You can go, all out, you can go full explanation if you want to, but it's completely up to you. Crowd chants, are we gonna get those in the game?
I would like to think so, yeah.
Okay. Possible demo.
I'd love to say yes. I mean, you're talking to the guy who wanted to do a demo like a year ago. I would love to say yes, but I don't know.
Okay. In this game, we already seen like there is bloodshed, but, and this goes into a little bit of a gory side. Will it have blood splatter, like blood leaking out, pooling, things like that?
Yeah, that stuff. We haven't touched on some of the features I'm going to do for that. I'm not going to talk your ear off on that. But yes, there will be stuff like that, and like the stuff. Let's say, for example, you get a deep gash on your arm or whatever, and there's those iconic shots of where the blood's like spurting out, and that is now already handled by the stat effect system. Like that can do that immediately. So we will be doing stuff like that for sure. Okay.
And let's also go with ring damage. Now, you were talking about that you can take, have just the boards or a concrete ring. Can you remove any of the items off of the ring?
I want to say yes. Initially, it seems fairly straightforward. The only problem is, let's say you're halfway through a match, you've already got a lot of stuff in the ring. How do you then remove the boards without forcing the stuff that's already overlapping the new video? And maybe that just needs to be like an overlap check or something. But I would love it if you could, because there was a spot in Tournament 5 or 3 where they took up the boards, and underneath on the framework of the ring was like a barbed wire net.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So to be able to do stuff like that, I think would be ideal. And like I say, there's no reason why not. It might be just a real game moment where if you activate that, then maybe I just remove any items over there. It's like part of the deal. You want that, I'm going to have to get rid of whatever you put on.
Next setting or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think people will mind that, to be completely honest, because it's like they got to understand, hey, if you want this super hardcore feature to be added, we got to move all the other stuff out the ring just to show.
Yeah, exactly. You know, as long as what you give them in exchange for what you took away is equally as cool, I think, right. Hopefully it's okay.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So here's the big question. What is your goal for this game?
That's a very deep and philosophical question.
I try.
I don't know, just like to get it done and just to have a game where I can play whatever death matches I wanted to make. And that's what it comes down to. It's just a game that I wanted to play. First and foremost, just something that I want to have fun, sit down, play like an arcadey bout of deathmatch wrestling and just pull off the type of stuff that I see in death matches quite often. I just want to be able to do that because it translates really well into the game space. So it'd just be good to do that. Anything else on top, like Real Wrestlers, is great as well. And it's been really like wild to think some of the guys that are signed up on it is really exciting. But doing them justice is also quite terrifying. But yeah, the end goal would be to just, you know, like I say, maybe have a roster of about, I don't know, 18, 20 people. All the creative deathmatch stuff working, allowing people to somehow bring in their own custom characters, whether that's through Creation Suite or through mods, you know, maybe mods initially. And just let people play it and have fun, which sounds like such a sort of simple goal. But as you know, like the years are ticking by, the years are ticking. But yeah, that's the end goal.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The one thing that I would like to say, and I've said this before, is like, I am very excited about this. And it's like, and you know, I hit you up early. I was just like, yo, I got to talk to you about this because, you know, as a wrestling fan, you know, and some people just enjoy regular sports entertainment wrestling. I enjoy all aspects of it. And to have someone that, you know, steps out, and we haven't had technically, this is the first hardcore wrestling game we have ever had, because that backyard wrestling it's not in the ring, it's goofy, but you're literally creating the first hardcore wrestling game that we have ever been able to have, and it's on next gen, it's on PC. Well, I mean, not next gen, you know, but it's on PC, you know, from, you know, here going, and, you know, it's great that we have these options, and I'm all in on it, to be completely honest. I'm all in on buying the game. You know, if there's a demo that comes out, a pre-alpha, whatever the case is, I'm down for all of it, guys. If, you know, whoever's watching it, you know, this is a great option that we have, and someone who's really behind it and dedicated towards it. And like I said before, thank you for taking this time to even step out and say, you know what, I want to make this game. Even if it was initially something that you wanted to do for yourself, you are doing a favor for the community, because this is something that we wanted as well. You know, so.
Yeah, I would say, if we go back to demo, even if there's not a public one, I'll definitely get you on board. We'll maybe have a bit of a parsec moment. Okay. I'd love to do some parsec with some people in the future when it's up and running, and I don't have to say, yeah, that part's broken, or that part's not done yet, you know. To a point where I can be like, all right, well, if that breaks, then it's about, I'm not going to waste your time. That's a good thing. Yeah, I'd love to do that with people in the future, and I'm always up for that, once it's in a stable place. But yeah, I think it'd be quite exciting if it can get done. And I've said before as well, if somebody just wants to step up and just do it for me, I'm more than happy that you can just go ahead and just finish the game for me. That'd be great, because first and foremost, I just want to play it and just have something that's fun. And I'm reaching a tipping point with all the animation issues. I tell you, getting these animations.
Listen, we all in this together. You got to finish.
Yeah. I tell you, had I known it was going to be this difficult, I probably would have turned around a year in. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of sunk cost fallacy now as well. I've invested so much time and tech in it as well. I've got to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, we're not going to keep you any longer. You know, I appreciate the time, you know, that you gave us.
No worries.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
You know, we want to do plugs, social media. You know, plug whatever you got. You know, well, we know you got the game going, but plugs.
I don't actually do. It's just my Twitter, which is just @Gackdaw. It's the first time I've said it out loud. And there's the Discord, which I think you can find through my profile. I don't know. I'm famously not very good at Discord. So if you need it, I think the link is on my profile, I think.
We'll link it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll link everything. But
yeah.
Just want to say thank you once again for your time. Definitely appreciate it, guys. Follow Gackdaw on Twitter, link in the description below. Definitely follow him on Discord. You better be interested in this game, because if not, we're gonna find you. Yeah. We'll haunt you. But thank you, Gackdaw, for giving us this interview. Definitely appreciate it, guys. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff that people say. Do that with this video, and you know, share it, things of that nature. We definitely appreciate that. Other than that, once again, thank you, Gackdaw, for your time. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, everybody, for watching the video. Much appreciated. Stay safe. Catch you guys on the next video.
Later.